Hello, my name is Bruno and today we're going to talk about scales. Scales are groups of notes immediately associated to practice technique, but in fact they are the theory behind the music we play. I would call it the primordial form of the music. From scales we can play, for instance, melodies and chords. Let's talk about this.
There are plenty of scales in music theory. Each of them has a different structure, a different way of organizing its notes. Today, we are going to start with the minor and major scales. These two types of scales are intrinsically related to each other. A C major scale is a scale played solely with white keys of the keyboard, starting from C up to the next C. The A minor scale also uses only white keys, but this time it starts and ends in A. But if both use the same group of notes, why is one major and the other one minor? The name of the scale is taken from the interval produced by the root note and the third note of the scale. The configuration of the semitones is the following: tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. In the previous video you have learned that the third with two whole tones is called a major third. There you have C major scale. The A minor scale is structured according to the following configuration: tone, semitone, tone, tone, semitone, tone, and tone. The third from A to C has a distance of 1.5 tone, so a minor third origins a minor scale. Yes, of course, you only have to grab one of those structures mentioned earlier and build up a sequence of notes based on that frame. Let's use the guitar and start on the root note, G. If we move on, playing the notes according to the pattern of the major scale, all the intervals will be according to that pattern until the note E. From here is where things become interesting. The interval between E and F is a half step distance and we need a whole tone higher from E. Do you remember that video talking about adjusting the notes, semitone up or down, according to the interval we want to construct? That's exactly what we're going to do here. F will become F sharp to be at whole tone distance from E, as required by a major scale structure. And finally, G must always be the last note of the major scale. Another important characteristic of the scales is the fact that each major scale has a relative minor scale, and vice versa. That's right, as mentioned earlier, both A minor and C major share the same notes, but they have different structures due to the way notes are grouped, and for that reason they sound differently. They are called relative scales. C is a relative major with a happy character, and A is a relative minor, sounding a little bit darker. Relative scales are always located a minor third apart. E is a relative minor of G major, but in the other hand, F is a relative major of D minor.
Can I start the scale in any note?
Yes, let's go step by step. Grab your root note. Write all the notes of the scale without repeating any letter. Choose the type of scale, minor or major. Use the semitones configuration of the chosen scale. Check whether the intervals are respecting the scale structure. In this case, we have to adjust the scale to respect its configuration. E to F is a semitone, but we need a whole tone. Therefore, F will become F sharp, as referred earlier in this video. There you go, G major as a sharp on the F. Let's try another one. Grab your root note, write all the notes of the scale without repeating any letter, choose the type of scale, use the semitones configuration of the chosen scale, and set up the scale with sharps or flats. Notice that between D and E should be a half step. Therefore, we use a flat on the E to shorten its distance from D. Luckily, the next interval becomes correct too. The same happens from G to A. Normally it would be a whole tone, but by using a flat on the A, we adjust it to a semitone, as indicated by the minor scale pattern. The problem is that now we have a bigger interval between A flat and B, which is 1.5 step, and we must ensure that B stays a whole tone distance from A flat. so we add a flat to the B as well.
Why did I write on another note rather than the root note?
You probably missed some of the steps mentioned before. It's very easy to represent the notes in the wrong way. Let's use the C major scale as an example. Following the major scale pattern, we go up a tone from C sharp to D sharp. After that, we go another tone upwards and the note looks like an F on the piano. But we know it must be an E, otherwise you would skip a letter on the scale. So in this case, we write E sharp, even though it looks and sounds like an F. That is what we call enharmonic notes.
What are enharmonic notes?
I knew you would ask that. Enharmonic notes are notes that sound the same but are represented in different ways. For instance, you can have a G sharp or A flat, depending on the context. They sound the same, but they are still different notes.
That was a handful, eh? This video is meant to be a reminder in case you need to rewatch this complicated content. Stop the video, take your time to process it, because it's not easy stuff. In any way, I hope you learn a little more about scales, and as always, this will be explained in detail at uniguitar.com. Subscribe if you aren't already, or share with that friend that wanted to learn theory. Thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.